So welcome in. I'm Bryan Harold, incoming MKP chair of MKP USA. So I want to welcome you all tonight for this chair's front porch on mission. We're very fortunate tonight to have two dignitaries of MKP. Bill Kauth, one of the founders of MKP, and David Kaar, very close to one of the founders of MKP, and are very fortunate to have their insight. So I want to start out tonight reading the mission, the current mission statement, which, like I imagine, most of your mission statements that you individually have modified, evolved over time. The current mission of MKP, the mission of MKP USA is to create a world where men act on their individual and collective responsibility for the future of humanity by initiating and supporting men on a path of emotional maturity, spiritual awareness, and deepening community. So I'm very pleased to introduce David and Bill, and I'm going to turn the microphone, as it were, over to them.
All right. Thanks. You know, Tosi had some surgery yesterday, some back surgery, and so a lot of us have been sending healing energy, and David just told me that it was actually outpatient, so it wasn't that terribly serious, but you know, every time something happens for Tosi, it kind of gets my heart and guts going. You know anything else about that, David?
No, just he's at home, he was groggy, he seems to be doing well.
All right, good. So I appreciate this front porch opportunity to get together. I'm just knocked out by how many guys are here, and sweet to see guys I've known for so long and in so many places around the world, especially Pitbull. He's there he is, boy. Well, he's one of our local leaders. I had to just tease him a little bit there. So I understand what Boysen shared with me is that David and I have been chosen to talk about mission and how that came to be and what it means. And I guess we've got like 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll go to Q&A. Is that right, Boysen?
You've got 10 to 15 minutes to tell us a story about the evolution of mission and MKP.
Okay, the history. I'll do the history. I'm pretty good at that. I was there, and David Kaar then can flesh it in with sort of the psycho-spiritual subtleties. So when we were sitting around, you know, Tosi's kitchen table, as the legend goes, it was actually Ron and I that had been in a lot of Gestalt training and a whole variety of other trainings. And somehow we knew that that mission, a lot of this, you know, honestly, the way I usually tell the story is that we didn't know anything about initiation or archetypes or any of that. We just knew that we had to do something for men. And you know, the three of us each had a little genius, but it was the blending of the three of us that made it amazing. And it was very intuitive. I mean, because we honestly didn't know anything, you know, academically cognitive about initiation, it literally just flowed through us because we were just at some level from Milwaukee. We're just so naive that there wasn't much in the way, so this thing just flowed through. So Tosi, I mean, Ron and I knew that mission had to be part of it, and we had been doing both psychological and spiritual training. So the sense that that this would evolve as a transpersonal mission was kind of built into who we were at the time. We also knew that the mission had to come from each man individually. And we were not about, it was so not in our hearts to impose our mission, even though we were like seriously, amazingly smart. We were smart enough to know that imposing an external mission would be like astonishingly uncool. So we developed a way of allowing the mission to come through the men. Ron developed some kind of a guided visualization. And just about that time, I was at, I think it was one of the big Robert Bly events, and James Hillman was there.
Yeah.
Hillman, Robert used to call him the wisest psychologist on the planet. Typical, typical Robert Blessing. And James Hillman, and we had already done 1 or 2 trainings, and I remember James saying something to the effect of, you know, man, every man lives out his life trying to heal his little boy's deepest needs. I went, whoa, because whatever the process that we had, what I watched as men moved from, you know, the mission into guts is that there was an incredibly high correlation between what they were attempting to do and, you know, in the guts thing, and it got down to their little boy's deepest needs. So I just sat down and I just wrote up, you know, little boy's deepest needs, and we just built it right in so that we didn't have to take a kind of a covert, you know, side road to get there. We could go directly into each man's deepest needs, coming from his childhood, his wounds and blessings and all that. So that's where that came from. And it seems to be working. I think you know enough to know that after X amount of years in iGroup and as men evolve, their mission changes. So it's initially to heal the little boy's deepest needs, but as they heal that and become more mature men, a little bit more sophisticated mission will come forward. So one other remarkable thing that I think you'd like to know is that Ron and I had been, well, I'm not sure quite how to language this, but I know Ron particularly was into kind of psychological magic, NLP kind of stuff. So he knew, and I knew also that that anchoring is a powerful technology. And what we also knew, because he and I had done a lot of Gestalt work and a lot of emotional cathartic stuff together, there was a training called Understanding Yourself and Others, which was like guts all weekend. And Ron and I had done that a few times. And Tosi also did it. So we had been up to our ears in guts, when we now call guts work, for a long time. And so what we knew was that once a man has gone through a potent emotional cathartic experience, his heart, his essence is just wide open and receptive. And that's what happens in religions. You know, people have these kind of, you know, they call it the coming to Jesus moment. And what it is that they just feel so touched by what's going on in their church that their heart's open, and what gets plugged in is either Jesus or Buddha or whatever the religion is that they happen to be in. So we knew all that, and we just did it deliberately. The moment we, you know, as you know from the training, the mission is built and refined and polished so that at the moment that they're in that emotionally receptive place, we have them speak their mission, and that anchors it, that grounds it in. That was you know, that was built in since the very beginning. And often, because it's a transpersonal mission, because it's designed deliberately to be big enough so that they can't live into it in one lifetime. I don't know if you heard that phrase, but that also was quite deliberate. Because of that, sometimes it's hard for men to make a transition, even when they're ready, into living their mission, because it's so big. And yet, I guess I've seen it happen thousands of times, and I love that we have the Ron Herring Award every year, and I've seen so many of those where men actually find that little doable way to live into their mission, to build a more splendid world beyond their single lifetime. So I think that's enough. I'm so glad to have the opportunity to share this stuff from all the way back 35 years.
When I did the training 33 years ago, and reflecting afterwards, I thought the juxtaposition of little boy's deepest needs, mission, and guts was brilliant. Because, you know, it's like heart surgery. The real trick, the real smarts go into where you write the blue lines on the guy's chest. And any intern can cut them open. It's known where to put the blue lines that matters. And that's what Little Boy's Deepest Needs does. It draws on the man's psyche where his heart surgery needs to be. So then it you know, any journeyman facilitator can take that information and open a man's heart. And I just thought the juxtaposition of those two was brilliant. And then the development of a mission is what would the world look like if everybody had the Little Boy's Deepest Need met, was fantastic. I mean, that's just brilliant. And some guys do live into that. And most of us spend a lot of time working on a Little Boy's Deepest Need over and over and over again. And, you know, that's okay. We talked about bucketing out a pond. How long does that take? It takes as long as it takes. You're going to bucket out a pond. You're not going to do it in the afternoon. But there is, the other side of that is I end up like a gerbil on a wheel. A lot of motion, not much progress. Sometimes we call that wound worship. So there is a risk in getting stuck and not moving on. So you look at the warrior training as an initiation from gross physical, normal everyday reality, money, sex, power, work, you know, but the life's kind of black and white, very, very solid. It's all the stuff that's real and you can touch, you know, into what's called subtle consciousness, which is things that are real and personal, but I can't touch them. They're not physical, you know, energies, colors, feelings, archetypes, mental images, all that. They're real, very real, but I can't touch them. You know, they're non-physical. And great is one of the greatest among them is my emotions. So now all of a sudden, I'm under my feelings. And the world's Technicolor. My God, it's much better than black. It's Technicolor. And that's great. And there's a lot of work to be done there. But if you stay there, you stay there. There is another place to go. And that's what mission defines. Mission defines that third state of consciousness, which is real, but not entirely personal. I mean, we talk about my mission, but the truth is my mission has me. My mission owns me. I'm in service to my mission. It's not in service to me. My mission owns me. And that's great because that gives my life meaning. And some people call that causal. So to not be a gerbil on the wheel and to move past my feelings into mission, we need another vehicle to get us there. And my feelings are great. They have energy, they have information, but they're empty of any permanent self-nature. They don't actually mean anything. My mission means something. My mission is why I'm here. So we need a training to take men from subtle to causal, to the land of mission and purpose.
Woo! Couple of questions. I'll start a question. If you've got a question out there in the field, if you want to put it into the chat window, that would be great. And I'll lead off. So you just said something, David, about your mission has you. Mm-hmm. And it dawned on me that what if your wound isn't healed and you haven't done that work? You got to kind of be careful what gets you.
Yeah. That's why it's really important to do that work. I mean, there's something called a spiritual bypass, where you try to go straight to spirituality. And if you jump over your emotional work, healing your wound, you can get there. You can be very disciplined. Some Zen people call this Zen disease. You can be but you're very disciplined, but you're a pretty lousy human being because you haven't done your emotional work. My humility, my humanity comes from owning my wound, knowing I'm imperfect, I'm damaged, and living with that, and living through that into the world. Without that, I'm a real good robot, and
Beautiful.
that's, some people end up that way. So yeah, you can't jump over it. It's messy, but you got to go through it.
And keep refining it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sam asked, can one of you
Hang on, let me respond to that too.
Yeah, go, Bill.
You know, I think most of you know my story. I was at the feminist conference and I'd been in a men's group, and I was standing there in the middle and I saw all these unbelievably conscious beings, and something came over me and I said, God damn it, somebody's got to do something for the men, and it was me. I was a crazy man for years after that. It wasn't like I had thought, like, what's my mission? It was just locked in, and I could not do anything else.
Yeah.
So, and that's happened, you know, for me a couple times in my life where it's shifted, and there was something else that just had to be done. Like right now, it's building community, and I just want to just be aware of the time we're in right now. I don't know about you, but damn near everybody I know, the most conscious people, are kind of depressed. And part of the reason they're depressed is they're so confused and upset, you know, so they got anger and confusion, all this stuff going on because of the state of the world, because of the election and the COVID and the lockdown and all this junk. It's just making a lot of us crazy. So I'm thinking that this might be a place for this conversation about mission to go. I mean, about, you know, talk a little bit about mission during this time of the, in the world, because I'm struggling with it.
That's beautiful. I love that. I'm going to bookmark where we are this time in the world. Either one of you want to address, can someone speak more about spiritual awareness and how that manifests in the masculine psyche? So second part of our mission statement, right? And
Yeah.
spiritual awareness.
Well, to me, it's the core aspect that is transpersonal. That is, I'm personal, but to care about all of us is to be transpersonal. I mean, to beyond myself. And that's, to me, that's God consciousness, that's spiritual, that's not just what's good for me, but what's good for everybody. And even though parts of that might not be as good for me as I could grab, I still want what's good for everybody. And I'm willing to give up some of what's good for me to have it be good for everybody. So there's a transpersonal, and I think that's, well, you just have to look at men like Martin Luther King, Dag Hammarskjöld, men who've literally sacrificed their lives to make it better for other people. Men, I think men are I don't want to be careful about the gender thing here, but I think men are particularly good at that. Women sacrifice dedicate their lives to their children and their communities. Men tend to sacrifice their lives for these transpersonal things, which is also community, also the children. So I don't know, does that touch on that at all?
Yeah. Bill, do you have a piece?
Yeah, let me add on to that, which is it's something I said a little bit earlier, that each man that comes through gets to find a transpersonal mission from his own heart. And I'm guessing that there's a tiny percentage of them that actually get the depth of the spirituality there. And I don't know how we did it, but we brought that forward from the very beginning. It's part of why, you know, after 35 years, we've got so little competition. It just, somehow we jumped way, way ahead of the curve. And I know we finally, after all this time, over the last 5 or 10 years, there's been several new men's trainings showing up. And I want to bless Boysen for just embracing each one of them as they come into the world, and, you know, getting in alignment with them, because God knows we need, you know, 100 times what MKP does, 1,000 times.
Thank you. You guys kind of touched on it, and the next one leads right in. Integral and spiral dynamics. Was that a part of the original thinking, or did it come later? I know you made up the whole integral model before you ever did the training, right, Bill?
That's right. Ken used to sit at my feet.
He told Ken Wilber about it.
Oh, right. Yes. So seriously, when did integral come into the picture?
Jeez. Ken Wilber actually wrote a novel. Do you remember what the name of that was?
Boomeritis.
Boomeritis. And usually I was the one that was reading all kinds of books and bringing stuff forward. Tosi read that book a couple of years before I did. And he actually he got the essence of integral and started bringing it forward. And then, of course, other guys showed up, one of whom was David Kaar.
Yeah, it was 2001. Tosti's calling around and saying, I read Boomeritis, and then I read Spiral Dynamics, which is like this book like this. It's a good doorstop. And he said, Ed, we got to look at this. So Spiral Dynamics was a thin edge of the wedge. That's what we started with. And that was 2001. And so we've been at that damn near 20 years, which is way before it got hot, popular.
Yeah. Boomeritis laid out the shadow side of the new age culture, which, I was deeply steeped in. That was our thing. I was greener than green. So, I know I was cranky about Ken's book, but the truth is that we had a big shadow going on. I just couldn't see it at the time. So Ken helped us see our new age shadow. What was, not visible there. What he calls the mean green meme. There was some mean shit that we were doing in the, covertly, as we were trying to be kind and good to everybody.
Thank you.
We're kind to everybody but Republicans. We're real mean. No, seriously, we're mean to them, and that's not okay. There's room for everybody, and everybody. The central idea of spiral dynamics is every level has wisdom. Every level is in advance of the one below it, and then it gets superseded by another. But they all have value. Transcend and include. That's the catchphrase. So keep growing, but keep what's good about what's there, and there is good in each of those.
Thank you. Thank you. We're going to keep moving. We've got. Yeah, I saw Mike Patterson. There you go. That was Mike's question. So David out of Chicago says, if my mission is not grabbing me like it did, Bill, does that mean I have more work to do to refine my mission, or do I have to do more emotional healing first?
Maybe.
It depends.
I'm not sure my pond ever gets completely bucketed out.
There you go.
But
that's a really, really personal question, and maybe that's true for you.
Yeah.
Maybe another direction is called for.
Well, but I do think as I grow and develop and get healthier, what was a great mission might be looking a little small, and now I'm ready for a larger mission.
Cool.
And so, consult the king and see if he's got a bigger job for you.
Consult the king. Great. And I'm going to throw a king into the room with the Randy Marks question. If my mission, I groups, how can I groups support men in doing that more than just by holding space? So I'm substituting I group as a bigger head, right? It's a sovereign energy. How can our groups support men in deepening their missions?
Well, there's something we talk about on the dragon training, which is both challenge and support. There's forming not just dyads, but triads. You need accountability partners with dyads. A lot of challenge, not a lot of support. You need both. You need someone to challenge me to think bigger and go forward, but also to support me in doing that, so I'm not alone. So I would encourage you to bring that into your I group, both challenge and support, and just maybe have a session about mission. Talk about what your mission was and how it might grow.
Beautiful. I'm also struck by Wilbur's idea of cross training here as something that can get plugged in to an I group. So even if it's not my mission, doing a mission helps me learn mission.
Yes, absolutely. It's great for your I group to take on a mission. Maybe it's, collecting clothes for a homeless shelter or food for, and just doing it together is a wonderful thing. And a group of us did that in a food thing here in Minnesota. It was wonderful. Every Friday we did that. It was just, it was more fun and it actually did some good too.
Nice.
when I was a lot younger, we had stretches in our I groups, and we'd actually write them down, and then we'd report in on how we did on our stretches and stuff like that. As an elder, I haven't done that for a while.
Come to my group sometime.
Bill, your whole life is a stretch.
There you go. Trip asks, and this connects directly to that. So what happened to the value of accountability in the MKP mission statement?
Yeah.
My experience in PITS is that the value is very important to men's evolving missions, and it flows from the MKP mission to men's mission behavior.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you have to say about accountability in mission and just generally?
Oh man, I remember I was in a group of mostly CEOs for a while. I've been in all different. For a while, I was in one group of all kings, all therapists. That was our magicians group, and for a while, all CEOs. That was my kings group. And the kings group is the one that did those stretches, and we held each other accountable. And we did it with money, of course. Business guys, you know, it was $5 or something if you didn't do your stretch. And all I remember is the money piled up, man. It was just.
Well, I think accountability evolves. I mean, it begins with, you know, did you do what you say you're going to do? Were you on time? You know, did you keep your stretch? And then it goes to, am I accountable to my shadow? Am I accountable for, and my cultural shadow, my racism, my sexism? Am I accountable for that? And then it moves, I think, am I accountable for my transpersonal mission? Am I accountable for making the world better in whatever way I'm called to?
Cool.
So like mission, accountability grows and develops. It becomes more complex.
Thank you. And that also speaks to that very first part of the MKP USA mission statement, individual and collective responsibility, right? So that's our tie to integrity and accountability.
Yeah, we have an accountability for our cultural shadows as well.
Mm.
The racism, the economic classism, sexism. We have an accountability. It's not just enough to say, oh yeah, I'm white, I'm a racist, okay, fine. No, I have an accountability for doing something about it. Even though I may never have hurt anybody like that, I still have an accountability for living in this society, this culture, this country, making it safe for everybody.
Thank you. Julian Devereaux said, it seems that the time we're in is at least partly going from self-focused growth and health to the collective growth and health again. Am I hearing this in what you're saying? Can you touch on this? From individual to collective. What do you think, Bill?
It's a lot of what I've been working on is trying to move into what's come to be known as we space. Oh, God. And just my experience of literally doing online courses and marketing it all over the place is it's just astonishingly hard. And I don't know why. I mean, I think the fact that we've got 1,000 groups around the world right now with 10,000 men is an absolute total 100% miracle. And unfortunately, again, we're so rare. The world needs us so desperately. And I don't know if you've seen Social Dilemma, that new movie that's out right now. It's on Netflix. It's really worth seeing. And it's about how social media is literally destroying kids. They're suiciding. It's destroying all of our ability to actually just have a conversation with each other, even adults. And you all know this stuff, but the movie really lays it out. It's called Social Dilemma. And it was just another hit for me in terms of how, how profoundly lonely our culture has been, how we're so separated from each other. And, the lockdown has been just exacerbating that dramatically. I mean, the work that needs to be done right now, anything you can do to put together a group of people in almost in any form that actually are talking and open their hearts with each other, it's more and more profoundly important every day. So, bless every effort from all of you in helping shift this movement away.
There's some really powerful comments going in on the comment stream that I'm not going to read through everything. Chris Conti asked about the separation that's been well noted in some of the polling around the presidential race. this differences between women and men in voting, and if there's anything that is popping up for you guys. So see, Windhorse, Sacido has a beautiful comment in here around MKP training materials not covering the 20 plus human needs, identified human needs, and that there may be a blind spot there for us.
Well, yeah, duh. I mean, the warrior training was brilliant cutting edge technology in 1985. What year is it now? There aren't many things that were cutting edge in 1985 that are still cutting edge today, and we're one of them. It needs to be updated. It needs to be developed. You know, men come to us with already knowing half the stuff we teach that they didn't used to know. We should start there and then go further. And I mean, that's excellent. You know, he's absolutely right.
Beautiful.
But, you know, God help you if you try to change the NWTA protocols. I've got scars to show for that.
Jeez.
Daryl Moment asks, can you say more about that concept of shadow accountability, David? Talk more about the cultural shadow.
Well, it's both cultural and personal, but it's that I'm accountable for my shadow. You know, it's not like, oh God, that's my shadow. You know, we say, don't hide it, don't repress it, don't deny it. So that means I've got to be willing to show it, to own it, and deal with it. So that's personally, okay. So that gets handled fairly directly. I don't want to say easily, but straightforwardly. Once I start owning it personally, I can deal with it. The cultural is a little trickier, but it's so. I'll make I statements. I'm a white man who grew up in the South Side of Chicago. Okay, that means that racism was in the air I breathed, the food I ate, the water I drank. I didn't decide. I hardly knew any black people, but I grew up in that, and so I'm responsible for that. And accountability means I acknowledge that, and then I do something about it. So you know, and I have got a Black Lives Matter sign in the house, but more than that. You know, I'm involved in making police accountable here in Minneapolis for their actions. That's what I mean. Okay, I'll stop there.
Thank you. So I'm reminded of the wall Friday night, right? So the consequences of my actions, intended or unintended, impacts.
Right, exactly.
That's accountability, right?
Yep.
Beautiful. From Vincenzo asked, in transitioning into elder energy, how has that impacted your personal mission? And do you think that there's a mission transition into elderhood?
Yeah, I know I've deliberately slowed down to kind of meet my body's needs for not moving so fast. I mean, honestly, there was a time where I never walked upstairs. I always ran. And now I kind of walk real slow. And I keep thinking, you know, have I finally outgrown a mission? I haven't. I just can't not do something to make a difference. So I just do it a little bit more slowly and a little bit more thoughtfully. And I'm in a kind of staying in the shit, like the quiet zone right now. I'm waiting. I'm deliberately not pushing the river right now. And partially is because finding truth is so goddamn hard. I find that, you know, because I've been a visionary, you know, that's been my title for 25 years. I started looking down every little rabbit hole and it was horrible, you know, and then I try to bring it back to my people, and by and large, they didn't want to hear it because it was horrible. And I'm still in that place. It's like I know way too much. And so anyway, so I'm in a kind of a holding pattern right now, and seeing if we can't actually sort some truth out that can actually be shared. And it's just not easy. I wish it was easy. It just isn't. It seems like it used to be easy years ago. But the complexity of our culture right now is way challenging.
Yeah, I do have an answer for that, and it starts with initiation. It's a bit of a long answer, but so initiation is a thing because anthropologists could notice it when they went in to study people because they had all the boys together do it at once because they were all ready about the same time. But actually, it was only the first of a series of transformations that people went through in traditional peoples. After that, they tended to do it in 2s and 3s. They go off with the shaman for a vision quest. They're off for a while and then come back. It wasn't in big groups. So it was from, boy to kind of warrior man, and then from warrior to marriageable adult. So now instead of you just loving yourself, you could love somebody else. And then from a marriageable adult to father. So now you didn't just love somebody who loved you back, you loved somebody who didn't love you back because all they did was cry and eat and need stuff. They're kids. And then from father to kind of householder, kind of citizen of the village. So now you're loving not only your kids, you're loving all the kids. And then grandfather.
That's good.
So now you're loving not just your kids, but your kids' kids. And then finally elder, where you're loving all of it. You're not only loving the kids, you're loving the trees and the fields, and you're loving kids who don't look like your kids. You're loving, so each one of these stages makes you more transpersonal. Mm-hmm. You're able to love, your love goes further and further out, and you're able to love people who are more and more different from you. Mm-hmm. And elder is the end point of that. For now you love all of it. That's elderhood. When you love all of it.
Yeah.
Because if you want to save the world, there's a problem. You gotta save all of it. Mm-hmm. Not just the parts you like. You gotta save all of it. That's elderhood.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've got another piece of my own hard-found elder wisdom I'd like to share. And I shared this at the 35th anniversary also. And it has to do with what I'm talking about from a visionary perspective, like what's going on in the world. And I don't know if you know Meg Wheatley's work, but I've been a fan of hers for, honestly, probably 25 years. I just admire her so deeply. And in her new book, she talks about empires. And she has studied opals, and there's been a bunch of writing on how empires flow through stages. And she's consolidated all that. And I've been reading some other books on it also. And the USA empire is in the 6th stage. There's 6 stages, and they're very precise. There's the pioneer stage, and then there's the kind of the fire up, let's get her done. And then there's the wealth phase. And then it starts declining very slowly. And it's like this happens over 12 generations. It happens over about 200 years. And each generation benefits from the previous generation. And they kind of forget the values and the morals of the previous generation. And consequently, they become a little bit more corrupt, a little bit less moral, until they get into the 6th phase, which USA is in right now. And if you look around, I just, from knowing that, I look around at the astonishing immorality that I see. And what I see is that's just the way it is in the 6th phase. It's not like they're bad or worse than any other empire during that phase. So honestly, that gives me some solace when I see the craziness going on politically and socially, that it's normal for empires to go through this. And somehow, my intention is to kind of see if I can stand back from it and not get hurt by it psychologically or spiritually or socially. And it's not easy even to stand back from that. But I want you to know that for your own comfort as a USA citizen, because this is MKP USA, Thanks for hearing me.
Mm-hmm. What's the name of that author again?
Meg Wheatley.
Thank you.
L-E-Y, Wheat, L-E-Y.
So that's the first third of the book, roughly, and
Yeah, it's who do we say we are, or what is it? Who
Yeah,
who
I can't
who will
remember
we
exactly.
be? Who will we be?
Yeah. Yeah, something like that.
It's excellent, excellent. She's written other stuff. She wrote The New Science about 20 years ago. Thomas Griggs turned me on to.
Yeah. There's another little book by William Ophuls that it's a tiny little book, but boy, it gets at that exact same stuff just brilliantly.
Who do we choose to be, says Chris Geyer. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Yeah, who do we choose? Yeah, thank you. That's right.
Chris
That's right.
Geyer's here.
And I just want to reflect back from Gen X and from what I'm seeing in millennials too, and something that you spoke to, Bill, I think beautifully, is that what I get out of elders in MKP is that, oh, it's okay, you don't have to push the river up. It's okay. And it's the Joanna Macy, it's the great turning piece of allowing ourselves. The elder mission teaches me that I can be in a place of grieving and then return to the effort, the effortful work on my mission. So to keep going back, we had from Jerry Green, Richard Heckler, founder of Aikido, or an Aikido master or something, says in the mission of somatics that we are not in touch with the needs of our environment and one another because we are not in touch with our bodies. What about somatic attunement in relationship to mission? What about somatics? Yes, so recognition is what I'm seeing without a lot of words. Everybody just got in touch with their bodies for a moment.
Absolutely necessary.
Take a deep breath.
Chris Conti said, what I heard, maybe by Toni Morrison, is I'm not responsible for what I didn't learn until I learned it.
Oh, that's good.
Gets rid of guilt for the past. Cool. How does an individual's transpersonal mission shift given the context of this stage 6 and falling apart in the US?
I'll take a stab at that. So,
Man, good question.
and, you know, what do they say in Hamilton? Oceans rise and empires fall.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes at the same time. Right now, the culture. I mean, our culture is decaying. You know, AD is wearing out. But something will come in and take its place. And so our job, purpose, mission, to me, is to bridge that gap, to help carry over what's worth carrying over from what we know to the next phase, the beginning of whatever comes next. And I think a lot of what we do will be very important to that. Our emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to say that the Zen, integral, and shadow work, those three together form something that's very important and is going to be what's needed to carry over to the new culture. Because that's what's going on, is one culture is dying and a new one is waiting to be born. And we're midwifing it.
That's lovely, David.
Enter Charles Eisenstein into the room. Yes.
Cool.
Yeah, one of our heroes.
And a time between stories. And here we are in a time between stories. Any other questions out of the field? So Patrick Shetland, well, hello, Julian Devereaux, past MKP USA chair, asks, is MKP the seed of a new culture of men?
I hope so. That's part of my mission.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
And a new culture of men and women together. Do you remember the Dane and Perry article you used to read at the early warrior trainings, Bill?
Yeah, sure, of course. I love that.
I mean, and one of it was about men and women together, and the punchline was soon but not yet.
Yeah, the groups had gone off separately as men and women, and they came back after several days, and they looked at each other, and they felt their bodies tightening up as they got closer to the other gender, and they looked at each other, soon but not yet. But, you know, that was 35 years ago that Danon wrote that, and I'm actually seeing
Yeah.
Gender reconciliation happening. Finally, there's
Yeah,
enough safety.
the time is now. We're ready for it. We're ready for men and women to do their work together, and for men and women to build an equal, egalitarian, nurturing culture. So it's yet. The time is yet.
That's the work I'm doing with Zoe, is to build those communities of men and women together. And
Yes.
I know our student Craig is on the call here.
Well, and Julian's work with Jerry is a prime example. MKP needs.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to be moving into that space. I mean, initiation needs to be, single gender.
Yeah.
But after that, we need to be doing co-gender work.
Yeah.
All of it.
We're not saying that it should all be co-ed. The separate gender work has been imperative to actually do our growth in a way that actually works. And I bless Julian also. He and Jody and some others have been doing some fabulous cross-gender work.
Beautiful. Yeah, there's that sparked some stuff. Thank you, Mike Patterson. At MKP 30, we talked about women being a part of MKP. What happened to that? So I think we pointed to some of that work that is happening. And what I know from conversations with Dan Baldwin is that there are more and more gender inclusive groups, mixed gender groups that are popping up, and Jerry, Gender Equity and Reconciliation, and the success and growth of Nobleman training, Next Step training, all of these other pieces that are kind of around. And UPPD, which we just launched, Unpacking Power, Privilege, and Difference, which is co-gender.
Cool.
There's a lot more happening. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been following all those, and it's really impressive, those new trainings that are designed either for men, working with women as they're coming through, or women working with men as they're coming through. It's beautiful. And I found so many times I'd be talking to MKP guys about the tribe work that we're doing and building these tribes of men and women. They say, yeah, we've been doing that, man. We've been doing that for a couple of years. It's working. So I hear about it.
And I see 8:52 on the clock. So I'm going to bring us into final questions here.
Final Jeopardy?
Final Jeopardy. Yes. What's the answer to life, the universe, and everything?
You take that one, David.
Isn't that 46?
42, man. 42.
Oh, damn, I missed it. Final Jeopardy, and I missed it.
So kind of last words on.
It's only worth $1 million, David.
It was only worth $1 million. So in final words, let's wrap up with something about, how about a blessing to the mission of the men in the room and the men out there in groups leaving this space? Yeah,
I'm just going to reiterate what I said before. The need for our work is utterly profound, and the fact that you guys are here tonight, to listen and learn and just be with us, just to kind of connect in this in this front porch gathering, what the heck ever it is, just feels so right to me. It's just, it touches me to know that you're here and working and helping people reconnect with each other in this time of astonishingly painful disconnection. So whatever you can do, bless you.
So in another Zoom room earlier this evening, the final meeting of the Mankind Men's Work Crossroads was occurring. And I bless the 6-8 men who created that training and pioneered its first one. They will be touching, what they built will touch hundreds and thousands of lives over the next many years. So I bless each of you for that as well. The work you're doing in your I group, the work you're doing in mission, the work you're doing in your community will touch hundreds and thousands of lives.
Mm-hmm.
I bless you for that, because it really makes a difference. It makes the world better. And you could be sitting around watching Netflix. You're doing this, and I bless you for it.
Yes.
Thank you. Daryl says to the founders, thank you. I am still doing the work you created and helped me find.
Bless you, Daryl.
Sam Ladian threw a charge in the room about who are the men who are taking this mission to Southeast Asia and China. And those men are out there in South America
Yeah.
and the Balkans and all over Eastern
Balkans.
Europe and
Nordic.
Japan and Nordic. And
We've
yes.
had LT trainings in Singapore. We're nibbling around the edges of China.
Egypt's got
Japan.
a couple of I groups now.
Egypt, right? There are I groups happening in Egypt. More
Well,
men and
East
more
Africa,
circles
there's
and more
I groups
places.
all over. There's I groups in East Africa. There's East Africa men going to South Africa to take the training and bringing it back to East Africa. I
Wow.
mean, got what you started, Bill. You troublemaker.
Oh, it's so amazing.
So, men, thank you for being here tonight. From Randy Marks to you, a challenge, take back to your I group. What are you doing to live your mission more fully? And how can I support you to do that?
Thank you, Randy. Bless you, Randy.
And that's it for tonight, men. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you, Boysen.
Thanks, Boysen.
And a last minute shout out to
Let's send some healing energy to Paul Samuelson too. He's recovering from.
Tosi and Samuelson, let's just hold those guys. Yeah.
Yeah.